Now then, crew, welcome back to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel and episode 9, I think it is, of the Big Little Off-Road Adventure trailer build. Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? We've done all the main stuff. The pod is built, all the fabrication work on the pod is done. We've just got a floor to put in it and to skin it, and then it can be bolted back on. We're going to use aluminium panels to cover the pod. The bike rack is made. Little monkey bike is currently on the trailer because I've been working out the best kind of jockey wheel to use for this particular trailer, and I'm going to discuss that in more details next. We've got wiring. What do you think about the wiring harness and where it's the routing of the wiring harness on the chassis? Trying to keep it well away from any kind of moving parts, but also well protected, so there's nothing dangling down and it's not going to get caught on rocks and things, because you know things get damaged really easily. Bit of thought at the start on where it runs on the chassis can make a big difference further down the line. Mr. Rawle, Simon Rawle, one of our top fan viewers, been with the channel for many years, also mentioned, hey Andy, why don't you fit a vice to the chassis somewhere, because that could be really useful along your trip for doing repairs and stuff. Very good idea, Simon. That came up in this morning's live stream. So again, we've got a vice to fit somewhere on the chassis, and the real estate on that little tiny chassis, it's extremely busy. It's very tight. There's not a lot of spare room, so I don't know how we're going to make that work, but we'll do our best. We'll take a look a bit later on. So we've got wiring, harness, routing. We've got jockey wheel to sort out. We've got a vice to fit on the chassis, and there might be more stuff to do as well. So I'm going to make a quick list, and then we'll crack on, and we'll go and take a look at the various types of jockey wheel that are available for trailers, and the most suitable one for this particular trailer and why. Roll the intro. Here we go. Used.
You don't paint something without wiping.
Honestly. This is really the last day that I have to work on this chassis, because by tonight it's got to be stripped and painted, and we're going to spray it. So, episode 9, the last bits on the chassis. There's clearly a lot more work to do than what I'm going to list here, okay? So, 1, we have the jockey wheel. The type and the location. Very important. You really do need a jockey wheel on a trailer, especially this one because the axle's so far back. Makes manoeuvring the trailer around a lot easier. Okay, 2, we've got Simon's vice. And I do have a little record size 0 vice, which might just fit on, but I've not even had a look yet. And then 3, we've got the wiring route. Where's it going to run on the chassis? How's the best way of doing that? Okay, to the trailer. Now we have 2 types of jockey wheel here, and I'll set the camera up shortly on the tripod so we're not moving around too much. We've got the what I call the sort of European style jockey wheel, which is fitted to all the Ifor Williams trailers, and this is an Ifor Williams, or should I say a Knott, made by a company called Knott. They do all the braking systems for Ifor Williams as well. Excellent quality product, and that is the second jockey wheel I purchased. The original jockey wheel is more along the lines of what's commonly found here in New Zealand, which has its own mounting brackets off the chassis, which you bolt on, or you can weld on if you wish. And this kind of jockey wheel, oh, it says evens out, made in New Zealand. There we go. Right, maybe I can get enough force on the pin now. Okay, now it's not going to rotate the full 90 degrees because obviously we've got clamps in the way, but this basically rotates round, and the wheel, it will end up at the front. Of course, it's going to crash into the extender hitch, and the top end would end up down here somewhere. And as you can see on the chassis, first of all, it requires this to be outboard, of the chassis rail, the A-frame, not inboard, so it becomes an issue when if you kink the trailer when you're reversing. This is probably the first thing that's going to hit the bumper on your car, and it's going to bend. This little pin will get bent first. Secondly, it takes up a lot of room, and it requires space, all this space on the trailer to activate. Now, the next problem is this one isn't long enough given the height of the chassis above the ground on this off-road trailer. So the only way to make it work will be to make a bracket, a mounting further down, and then mount the whole thing further down. But then it becomes a bit of an issue with the rotation, because you're off the center line of the chassis. And secondly, you're losing some ground clearance. The jockey wheel is going to be so much lower to the ground, even when it's in the horizontal plane, in the unused position. So I very quickly went away from this designer jockey wheel. It's just not going to work for what we want. So what makes the knot style jockey wheel, the vertical mount jockey wheel, so much better for this kind of application, where we've got a high chassis, so we need a very long, strong jockey wheel, and we don't have a lot of space to move it around, Well, it only moves in the vertical orientation. You undo a clamp and it moves directly upwards, and you can pretty much get the jockey wheel reasonably well out of the way. If it was mounted on the chassis, then the jockey wheel would hang down. We're going to mount it on a bracket just above the chassis, which means that the wheel can almost get fully up level with the chassis, because when you're off-roading, you don't want stuff that can get broken hanging down. Let me show you. Now, one of the concerns that I had, and again you can see now with the monkey bike mounted to the bike rack, and the bike rack in its position on the trailer chassis, just how little room we've got available. So my only concern, or one of my main concerns with this style jockey wheel was, is there enough room to actually rotate the lever of the jockey wheel to put the jockey wheel down, or to finish tightening it back up once the monkey bike's in position, because sometimes it'll be on the trailer. And we've got plenty of room, plenty of clearance for your hand between the jockey wheel lever and the actual bike itself. There's a good sort of 50-60 millimeters of clearance, which is absolutely excellent. That's that box ticked. Now, the next box is, can we undo the nut, the lever that undoes the clamp for the jockey wheel, to lower it down? So at the moment, the jockey wheel is pretty much in its fully up position. It might be able to go a little bit further up. Got a bit more room down here, look. And the wheel, even in this position, the wheel is more than half above the base of the chassis. So we're going to have lots and lots of ground clearance. And another inch will be even better. So to lower the jockey wheel, when you want to use it, you just undo this clamp here. And then you can wiggle the jockey wheel down. You can see it's all serrated, and it's serrated inside the clamp as well, which means it locks onto the jockey wheel really well. There's no chance of it slipping once it's under load. We can lower this down, right down to the lowest point, because this is a very high trailer off the ground. And we can clamp it back up again. There we go. Now we're only held on with G-clamps, so I'll be a bit careful there. I can't put any load of the weight of the trailer on the jockey wheel at the moment, because the G-clamps will just fail. But we can still lower down the jockey wheel all the way to the ground, and with this being an extra long kind of a jockey wheel stem, there's still lots and lots of thread contact and lots of spare travel on the jockey wheel. Again, very important, because we might not be on level ground. There could be a hole where we're putting the jockey wheel down. There we are. The jockey wheel is just starting to go under some load now. It's made contact with the ground, and we've only used probably about 4 inches of the travel, and this is probably at least another 6 inches of travel remaining. Well, that's really, really good. Now, I was hoping, ideally, in the back of my mind, to mount the jockey wheel inboard of the A-frame and not outboard as it is currently. That would have left the A-frame nice and smooth, so when you're brushing past fence posts and tree stumps, that kind of stuff, there'd be nothing to get caught. It would all be protected inboard of the A-frame. Unfortunately, on this particular trailer, there's hardly any space now remaining within the spare part of the A-frame. We've got the handbrake in there, which is perfect. That was really important. But getting the actual that clamp, that knot clamp inboard, and being able to turn the handle to release the clamp completely impossible. Just not enough room. So it's going to have to go where it is. My next job is to make up a bracket that I can weld to the chassis to mount that jockey wheel. And then that job's then done. I can get rid of the axle stand, and the jockey wheel essentially is fitted then for the future. And I can focus on probably finding some space for Simon's vise, hopefully. So let's take a quick look and see how we're going to do these kind of brackets. Because I want to make it look smart, but also be strong enough and functional. It's very important. That jockey wheel is going to take quite a lot of loading. On this particular trailer, when it's fully laden, because the axle is quite far back, it's lifting most of the weight of the trailer and the contents, you know, the load on the trailer, including the monkey bike, which weighs 104 kilograms. So it's probably going to be lifting easily half a ton on that jockey wheel when the trailer's loaded. It's a lot of weight for a jockey wheel to pull up. Okay, so at the moment I've just used a bit of angle iron, just clamped to the chassis rail, to the A-frame, and of course clamped to the jockey wheel as well. But that, I can't leave the clamps on there, that's not going to work, is it? So do I use a bit of angle and weld it on straight onto the chassis, like it is here, or do I make a couple of mounts out of some really strong box section that I can cut down, which will look a little bit like these mounts here, look, but on their side. A bit smarter, and it's sort of in keeping with the style of the trailer. So the long side of the box section, the flat plate will be down here, and then there'll be the angle will come down and it'll get welded on. So there'll be 4 built-in gussets. The only downside is the box section isn't quite as thick on the sidewall. Is it going to be strong enough? Because like I said, there's an awful lot of force there. If you look at the side, this is a 24mm nut, which must be something like about an M16 thread. It's a massive bolt, and the casting itself, if I put my hand there, it's almost the same size as my hand. This is proper stuff. It's big, heavy engineering. So, you know, it's got to be mounted properly, hasn't it? So it's time for me to get my thinking cap on, have a rummage around, see what kind of steel I've got left over in stock, because, you know, we've got to use what we've got, right? And come up with a plan. Here's a word from Toolgirl Holly.
Now then, crew, Toolgirl Holly here. Don't miss the next live stream, 8:30 AM Sunday.
We're getting there. I came up with a plan, and I found some box section. I've done just the job. It absolutely is bang on. Okay. Right, pilot hole time. That's the wrong clip key. There we go. Look. I need a new chuck. This one is knackered. It's done a lot of work. Now, the biggest bolts I've got are M12. The holes in the jockey wheel casting on the clamp are much bigger than that. It's all we've got. So, 12mm drill bit it is. Well, we have a plan, and the plan was, well, let me show you. Okay, so I measured up the rear side of the clamp mount for the new jockey wheel, and this is the dimensions, basically. 185mm total length, 150mm between centers of these massive holes, and I've decided to, and 70mm tall, 70mm across in this direction. So I've decided to use two pieces of, I'll have two brackets. That gives us 4 gussets, so super strong. But obviously we need to leave a gap between the two so I can get in to weld them. So this is the rear of the bracket. That one will go on there, not drawn to scale. That one will go on there, and the gap here, just for your reference, should end up being about 50mm, which is enough to get the MIG in both sides. So I reckon it's going to work pretty well. Right, next job is to get these aligned on the chassis in exactly the right place and get them welded up. Here we go. Mrs. Mechanic's made me a coffee. I feel obliged to stop. Right, we won't be needing that anymore. Okay, so the first job is to get them sort of approximately where they need to be, and then clean up all the galv. There's no galv on this piece. There is on here again. Now we can cut that one down a bit because they overhang the chassis. So we'll take a bit off those. On that one. Heavy. Right. Well. DOS. Really? Woohoo! We can get rid of the axle stand. Yes! It's already 1:30 in the afternoon. I finished the live stream today at 10 a.m. and I started on the trailer at 10:30. I've had to move Alan's bike outside because I can't weld with that in here because it's an old bike. It could be leaking petrol somewhere, so it's got to go outside. It's going to be a long day. 3 hours just to do the jockey wheel brackets, which is ridiculous. It should have taken me about an hour to an hour and a half tops. But it just shows when you're filming stuff, it takes so much longer, you know, and there's other stuff to do as well around the workshop. Right, let's take a look at the list and see what's left to do. Righty-ho. Okay, so we have done the jockey wheel type and location. It's all mounted. It works really well. Very happy. And we know it's not going to interfere with the monkey bike or anything else on the trailer. So, big tick, job done. Now, Simon's vise. Let's go have a look on the shelf and grab that vise. Okay, now I bought this vise quite some time ago. And I wasn't too sure what to use it for. But you know what? I think it'll be just perfect on the trailer. The question is, where will it go? I've put the bike rack on so I know where it can't go. Now, I'm right-handed, so that makes quite a difference. If it goes over on this side, can you see that? You can. If it goes over here, then obviously everything's in the way. If I'm trying to cut something, the jockey wheel's going to be in the way. So, it'll have to go on this side here. Oh, I took the liberty of welding up the handbrake bracket while I was doing, you know, welding at this end as well. So that's, does it go like that? Not really, because that's going to foul on the chassis. So I think it'll have to go basically parallel to this A-frame, but it has 3 mounts underneath, and I want to use all 3. And I don't want to drill into my box section. That's definitely not going to happen. So either I've got to raise it up on a standoff, or I'll bring it further out. And the bracket basically like that. Now I know that it's taken up, it's putting additional, you know, clutter really on the exterior of the A-frame. But hey, if you look at the bike rack, just pan you around a little bit, you know, it sticks out quite a bit, doesn't it? I'll bring it back a little bit. There you go. So I mean, realistically, with the bike rack on, you know, it's not going to, even if it was right out there, it's not really going to affect how, you know, the, it's not going to affect it at all, really, in reality, because I've got the extender hitched up, forget. Okay, so, do I want to raise it up, or do I want to pull it out? If I pull it out, it gives me more, if I'm using a hacksaw, it gives me more room against the bike rack. I'm not going to crash into the bike rack. So I'm going to make a bracket up, basically sits flush with the top of there, and welded down the sides. We can bolt the vise on, sort of equidistant, somewhere in the middle, but obviously not in the way of the handbrake either, which it should be fine. We have a plan, again. Good, right, next job is I need to find some steel, and it needs to be something pretty thick, because we're mounting a vise. The last thing you want is your vise to be moving around. So, let me go for a rummage. Okay, before I go looking for steel, we need to know how big it needs to be, right? So, the mounts across here, oh my word, 83 mil. So we're going to need a plate at least 120, I would say. So this being the trailer A-frame. And we've got 2 holes. They are approximately, obviously we'll measure them properly later on. And what did we say? It was about 83. Yeah, about 83 mil. So we were going to go for a piece of steel about 120 wide. Now, we need to have steel supporting under that bit as well. About 120 again, look. I would say. So let's say 120 square. Should be enough. I think. Yes. So something nice and thick, 120. We're looking down from the top at the moment. What we can do, and it's going to need it, it's going to need some kind of a gusset. So I think we could probably do that in the middle. Just a single gusset in the middle should be enough. So I don't think I've got any box section big enough. I can have a look, but I don't think I have. So we'd have a gusset, you know, not all the way obviously. In the actual fact, can we? Because, thinking about it, if that's in that orientation, we've got a hole back here, haven't we? There's a hole there. So it's going to need to be a bit further away from the frame to allow the bolt, and we may well have a weld across there, although I might weld across the top, we'll see. So that's going to need to be a bit bigger than that to give us that clearance. Okay, 140. I think, just to be on the safe side. Then what we'll do is we'll just clean off these bits so we have no sharp edges and stuff. Okay, 120 by 140, thick something. £6mm plate. That's all we've got. Right, that's better. Okay, so we're going to use that and that as our master edges, our reference point. It's still quite hot. So we need 140 by 120. Okay. Okay. Right, 140. And there. So we can score that across here. I think 6mm will be fine. There's no point making it out of 8mm. We haven't got any anyway. And then we need from here, we need 120. There we go. Right. And we need to cut on that side of each line. Okay, once that's cut, we'll mark it out with all the holes and stuff. Dum dum dum. What's next? We're going to need some more bits, aren't we? So I might as well get all the cutting done while I'm on. Let's have a look at the drawing. In fact, let's do a new drawing. So looking at it side on, so we've got the box section of the chassis here. Running out of cardboard today. And we've got the top plate here, which is 140 from there to there. Now, I think because we definitely want to round these off. We don't need those corners there. It means we can't have a gusset all the way to the outside. So I need to work out how much we're going to round it off, and then we'll do a gusset just for that bit. So we'll have a gusset coming down something like that. Now, because therefore we've got a section here, which, you know, that's where the vise is really mounted. There's a lot of force on that part. What we're going to need then is another plate, just a short plate down the middle on the underside, like that, to support that part. The gussets will be out to about here and here. And we need a bit of an overlap as well, maybe 30mm overlap. So let me work all of that out and I'll show you what I'll come up with. I just want to offer the vise up onto the plate and just see how things are looking as regards the size of that. Flies, honestly I hate them. There we go, look. So we've got one, at the moment we've got 140 across here and 120 along there. I'm just going to pop the vise on, so we'll say that that's the outside edge, and if you look underneath, the edge of contact is here. We don't want the plate to extend any further beyond that, otherwise it's going to prevent things. We're putting the vise in the jaws you know, long pieces won't be able to go beyond the plate. So that would be a bad thing. That would be an incorrectly fitted vice. So if we line that up there, we've actually still got quite a gap. So I put my scriber on where the line is. That's where the line is now, and I think we've got way too much. I reckon we could still go for that 120 that we were originally planning. There's still enough room for that bolt. So I'm going to remark it out just down here, cut it down from 140 to 120, and then we'll go from there. Right, said Fred. 120. It's always a start of your scribe line. There we go. Cool, that's our new line. So I'll just cross that one out. And we'll mark it with the yellow pen so we don't get it wrong later on. Okay, now we can see how much of this radius we need to put on there where the vice sits, because we don't want those sharp, there's no point in those sharp corners being there. Okay, just line the vice up so that that front edge is lined up with the front of the plate, which it is now, and we're central to the plate, so we're about there. That works. Okay. Now, you can see now, obviously we want to leave a little bit of overhang, but we don't need any of this area here. So if I just mark my scriber down there, holding the vice down, that'll give us an approximate radius. So we can measure that now. And it was the first scribe line that I did, not the second one. It's about 25 mil. So if I basically mark that up with a 25 mil radius across there, look like that, then when we cut it out, I can grind that off. Cool. So 25 in. Where's my little block? I know you can't see this, but this is a really useful way of doing this. You put the block against the piece of steel and then push the ruler up to it, and then you can't really, it adds to accuracy, you know. Okay, so we'll just mark that one, 25 mil in that plane. There we go. Mark that. Oh, scriber's working well today. It's amazing when you sharpen it, isn't it? Okay, now, so we've done that one, and we need to come across and do this one. So, it was 120, so it'd be 95 is where the scribe line's going to go. Just there, look. There we are. Okay. Coolio. Right, brace yourself. You're going to get a centre punch. There's going to be an earthquake. You ready? Okay. And now we'll get these. I'll just measure out to 20 to the edge there. Look, 25. That's, oh, there we are, bent. It's more like it. Perfect, that'll do me. It gives us a good guide, then we can grind that down. Right, I'll mark up the other end. Well, yeah. Oakley dokley. Right, so we've got an idea now of the plate which is running around here, bit of a corner, bit of a radius there, across the front for the vice, and then back down. Done. So, next job is to measure how long a gusset we're going to do. With this being quite near to the end, only 25mm from the end, we could, in theory, we could have a gusset all the way to the end, which I think we'll do, actually. So that gusset is going to be, maybe we'll bring it in 5mm, just for tidiness. So the measurement there is 95, so it wants to be 90 long. So I get a pen. So the gusset's going to be 90 there. Okay, and we're going to need a plate to run down the middle, just to strengthen underneath. That'll be in the vertical plane. So the gusset's going to come up to about there. We want about 30mm. So that's 30 with 30mm overlap. It wants to be at least 60. So let's make it 70. We're going to end up with a gusset underneath, something like that, which is about 70mm long, and that would be 90mm. And how deep that triangle needs to be, don't know. Let's see what steel stock we've got. I think I might use the same 6mm plate actually. Cut it off from this. So probably about, I don't know, it's going to be about 90, 70. That'll probably work.
Showing off, don't wanna have to wait tonight. Bets are off, I'm gonna find my way tonight. Won't you talk to me?
Right, said Fred. Next job, mark the holes for the vice. They're going to be somewhere on there. Okay, lining the vice up on the plate. And I think we'll do these front two holes first. Yes, it should be somewhere around about there. So, we need to first of all measure the gap between those holes accurately. So where's my verniers? Okay, verniers are zeroed. We'll do it from one edge of a hole to another edge of a hole. And 82, 81.93. Who would make it 81.93? It is, and that'll do. Right, well, that's what our measurement is. 81.93 distance. Right, centre line. It's not quite 120, is it? What's going on there? Okay, so we've gone for slightly under 120 millimeters. It is 118. So 118 divided by 2 is 59. So 59 being the centre line. Down there. And I'm going to measure it down this end as well and just score it across, I think. So 59. There we go. Okay. Right, we need that centre line later on for the bottom hole. Okay, so 81.93 divided by 2. I've no idea. 82 would be 41, so it's just under 41, isn't it? So, just under 41. Now, what was the distance? It's not that line. So the distance from the front is from that supporting edge there back. I need 2 rulers. Hang on. So that is the centre line of those holes. Near as damn it. And they want to be back by 47 millimeters. So 47 millimeters from the front. Where's my block? I've lost my block. I didn't block. Right, blocks are always good. So 47 millimeters is there. Oh, this side. Oh, jeez. Okay, so just under 41 from that centre line. 41, so about there. Just on my line. And then the same again over here. Should be there. Let's just double check that with the verniers. Yes, that'll do nicely. We'll just score that across and then we can centre punch. Then we've got 2 holes marked up. And what I like to do when I'm drilling holes is just put a circle around like that. This is the best part of the bench to do centre punching, because we welded some extra bits under for the vise, you see. Right, brace yourselves for an earthquake. And another earthquake coming your way. Lovely jubbly. Now, using that same technique of the double ruler technique, we can line that ruler up between the centre line of those 2 holes, like that, and then we can measure back the distance. So that's going to be 48 or 49 approximately. Ooh, 48 and a half. Let's go with that. 48 and a half. Okay, so from this line here, 48 and a half back. So 47, 48 and a half. It should be, he says, where's my square? It should be there. So what I can do now, pop the vise on and look down from the top, see if it all lines up before we drill any holes. Oakley dokley. That one looks pretty central to me. It's a bit different on camera, but it is, believe me, it's central. And can we get down that one? Yes, we can. That one is bang on. And the rear one, to me, does look a little bit too far back. So I'm going to knock off 1/2 mil on that one and rescore it. There, that looks a lot better. Quite happy with that. The 2 obviously all lined up in the middle. Can't touch that for focus. You got to touch this for focus, haven't you, donkey? Right. So the next question is, how big are the holes? I don't think they're 10 mil, and the next size down is 8. So I think we'll be going for 8, but just to double check. Oh yeah, 8.28. So we'll go for 8 mil. Let's go and see if it fits now. It might not. Oh, that should go in there. What's going on? Why have we got an obstruction in that hole? Live TV. There we are. Something was stuck in the hole. Right, nice tight fit. Job done. The holes are done. Excellent. What's next? Well, we've got the little piece that goes underneath. That needs welding on. That's going to go on there, down the centre line, to give it a bit more strength near the end. And then we've got the two gussets, but they're missing something. This trailer has something special. That's better. Right, said Fred, because we need that line that's already marked up for said bonus piece, we'll call this the top. And because it's the top, we're going to write top on it, so we don't forget, just like me, to weld it on upside down. Okay, so we've got this gusset, which is going to go something like that, probably just hanging over the edge a little bit, and then we can get a nice weld down the side. Same with that one, boom, and then that one down there, which refuses to stand up for some reason. Ah, that's because oh God, I need to fix that. Right, we'll try again. Will it stand up? Yes, that's much better. And it's very hot. Okay, so that's going to go on there. That one is going to go like that, and that one like that. So let me get everything cleaned up, including the trailer. Obviously, I think we're going to weld all this lot on first before we offer it up to the trailer, and then we'll weld the whole assembly to the trailer. That's the plan. So look at that side first. See, it's parallel. Go this side.
It's not skinned
That's just not on, is it?
Well, it'll be fine.
No, it won't be fine. It won't be fine. I can't live with myself like that. It'll be fine. Nobody will ever notice. You won't see it. Nobody will ever notice, because when the weld line's on, you won't be able to tell. Oh, puppy, what's this? Okay, you're going to give me a paw. Good girl, thank you. And this paw. Thank you. There's your reward. Cookie time. Seriously, you left this one behind. That'll do. Nice. Hooray. Lovely jubbly. There you go, Simon. You got your vice. Oh, it's gone 5 o'clock. Oh, red pen, wrong pen. Jeez, right, Simon's vice is done. Wiring brackets. So, what have we got? Well, Mrs. Mechanic made all these. Now these basically go on the side of the chassis and they've got the 2 holes, so you wire, if the pen's the wire goes here, it's obviously all wrapped in conduit and stuff, and you can put a cable tie through the 2 and it sort of supports it really, really well. We've got lots of them, but we're going to be doing other stuff other than just using these. Let me explain. So I've only got about an hour and a half left and I have to call it a day. So the wiring comes from the front of the trailer, and it's going to have to come, basically make its way to the rear. So we're going to come down here. We can't come down the side of the spine because it's already too busy. There's already a handbrake mechanism there. We could possibly come down the other side. That's an option. And yes, we'll do that. We're going to come down the spine on this side. We're going to have to loop underneath, so we can use some of Mrs. Mechanic's brackets for that. Now we also have to consider we need to have a junction box, so maybe it's going to have to go on the spine on a raised bracket. I can't bolt into the spine because obviously we've got the sliding box section. That won't work. The other option is to come down this side, down there, fit the junction box on the side, and then come across on that side. So maybe we'll do that. I don't know, I've not quite worked it out yet. And then for this end we need to stay away from all the suspension stuff. Far too busy. However, obviously the wiring for the electric brakes will have to go across the chassis to each wheel, but for the lighting side of it I thought we could put a couple of metal bars, just round bar, same stuff that we use for the handbrake. I got plenty of that, from here going across to this corner, and then it only has to go to here before it goes up to the, there's the bracket for the mudguard. So the wiring has to get to this point here, and then it goes up the mudguard to the light. So having a diagonal piece here, one about that round bar, and another piece there, will do 2 things. It'll keep the wiring completely away from all the moving parts. It'll make it really easy to get to, and off the same bar we can support the two handbrake cables, which are actually clutch brake cables. No, clutch cables, not clutch brake. I'm getting tired. Clutch cables off the DR200 farm special. Yes, not ideal, but they work. Geez, it's been quite a long day today already, but I have to get all the welding on this chassis finished today. There is no ifs, no buts. We don't stop until it's done. So I'm going to crack on, work out where all these need to be, get all the chassis ground back. It'll be a bit of one of those super fast hyperlapse videos, and I'll see you back at the bench. We're nearly there, and it's really hot in the workshop again, and I've got a two-tone shirt, so apologies, it's just the way it is. Now, all the little brackety things that Mrs. Mechanic made are on the two metal bars, the rods at the back to carry the wiring harness to the rear of the trailer. They're on as well. There's one last thing to do, and that's for the junction box. Let me show you. In fact, I took a screenshot of the junction box we're going to use. It's made by Rubberlight. It's got a clear front cover, so it's really good to inspect. You know, you can see green crusties develop without even taking the cover off, which is fantastic. And you can also see if there's moisture in there as well, which is really good. So I've got a picture on my phone. I'll show you what we mean. It's got some dimensions on it. Once we've retrieved those, I can make up some kind of standoff bracket to weld onto the chassis. I'll drill it once it turns up because it doesn't give me any dimensions of where the holes are to mount it, and then we're done for the day. It'll be cider time. Here we go. Right, said Fred. I think it's on there in the gallery. Yes, that's the one. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Sorry, it's only a small screen. It's a rubberized, purely rubber actually, casing with like a perspex lid, and it's got 8 connections. Basically, you can connect 8 different circuits or wires in there. Really good, and you just trim these ends to suit the diameter of your cable. I've used lots of them before. However, they're very expensive in New Zealand. $77 for one of those now in New Zealand. I remember they were about £15 in England when I used to buy them. Absolutely crazy, and I haven't got any spare ones. So the dimensions are 135 by 102 by 38 deep. Oh, and that's the part number if you need one. They're very good, made by Rubberlight, but they're also marketed here in New Zealand under the Nava brand name. They obviously buy them in, don't they? Because they can't make them themselves. Oakley dokley. So running out of cardboard, this is the last scrap we've got at the moment, so we need some kind of a bracket, basically, that goes onto the chassis. So do I do 3D? I could do 3D. There, look, 3D, and it has a little dotted line like that, and then we've got a line here, and it goes like that, and like that, and like that, and we'll have a bit of weld down here and a bit of weld down there, and I'll drill the holes for it later on. Now, the width of the component, which will be that, we may decide to go a little bit bigger, so it's, you know, looks a bit tidier. That'll be 135 plus question mark. And now this measurement here, do we support the entire casing? It is made of rubber, so there's a lot of flex going on, and we don't know where the mounting holes are. So realistically, yes, we should. I think the widest I've got is 100mm, and it needs to be, as per the diagram, 102. Damn. Okay, let me have a look around and see what I can find. All I've got is this 3mm sheet, and the problem is today's going from bad to worse, to be fair. Behind the scenes, these are my last 2 slit discs. Hopefully I can get it cut using these. I also don't really have the ability to bend 3mm plate in a tidy fashion. So what I tend to do is cut about halfway through it with a slit disc, bend it in the vise, and then put a weld line down the cut line, and then just clean it up with a flat disc. Looks pretty good when it's finished. Okay, I've got some grinding to do. Why don't you... In fact, here's Tool Girl Holly. Holly, over to you.
Hey! While Andy's doing that, check out my Instagram page, Tool Girl Holly.
Oh, I'm really late today. I really am. It's way gone 7 o'clock. And Mrs. Mechanic said, table ready at 7:30. Sharp. But she knows that I always run late. She's very good. Anyway, there is the standoff bracket. Done. Welded up, ground back. Looks okay. Happy with that. It sort of does the job. And you can't really sort of tell as you look on the inside. You can just see the weld lines there, look. Where it's burnt through, you know. Okay, now, problem is, this is, I've made it 105 tall. It is, these bits are 30 each, and it's 140 across, approximately. You know, it's not critical. So, the chassis rail is only 100, which means I'm going to need to trim, and put a little bit of a chamfer on the bottom, and then lift the whole thing up. Sorry, a little chamfer on the top, and then lift the whole thing up slightly so it sits just proud of the chassis rail, which is better than it hanging down. Down is bad when you're off-roading. Up, when there's space, is good because it's going to clear things better. And there you go. Right. Actually, yes, it'll work just fine. It really will. The only downside is, where's my phone? Hang on, bear with me. I need my phone. My day could suddenly have got a little bit longer. Where's that picture? Yeah, okay, so... Yeah. The cables go in and out, the ports, so to speak, are on the long side, okay? So at the moment, the way it's orientated, the cables will either go in at the top and come out the bottom, etc. Bit messy, isn't it? It'd be a lot nicer if they came in from the side and went out the side. That's where the cables are running from on the vehicle. It's sort of 90 degrees out. So, realistically, on the chassis, this needs to go in that orientation, not that. Which means I have a bit more of a bracket to put on the back, so it stands, so basically it can go back down onto the chassis again, because at the moment it's sort of hanging in the air, isn't it? Okay, a bit more to do yet. Cider will have to wait. That's alright. It makes no difference. That just sums up today, does that? Holy moly. I have no idea what time it is. I know I'm in trouble. Dinner will be in the dog, I bet you. It's done. It is. Do you want to have a look? There is still a couple of welds to do when I flip the trailer chassis over on the final cleanup. There's no point me trying to weld upside down when I can do it really easily. It'll take a lot less time when I do it then. Yeah, I'm knackered. Sorry about that. Okay, let's have a look. Simon, you did get your vice. By gum. Right, I've just chucked the handbrake back on again because it'd be quite handy to be able to use the handbrake when I'm moving the bikes in and out of the workshop. So, where did we start? We did the jockey wheel. No, there's been no welding cleaning up done yet. That's going to happen later on. It is. Today's been a busy day. So there you go. The jockey wheel is done and it works brilliantly. It's super strong, doesn't rattle around or move or anything. Next job was Simon's vice. There you go. Simon's vice is done. A record vice as well, made in England. Only the best kind. And some speed holes as well. Almost speed holes, because they're supposed to get bigger as they go along. These are like decorative. How's that? And even underneath, look at that, on this little bit. 3 little holes in there just to match. Anyway, I mess around. I wasted time doing that, but hey, what the hell. It's very cool, and thank you, Simon, for the idea. I'm very pleased that I did it, even though it took a bit of time. And then all the little brackets are on for the wiring. Happy with that. We've got the 2 bars put in as well, just to carry the wiring to the back. Actually quite a good idea. That it worked out really well. So, you know, another one of those things. Now, just for a laugh, obviously... Yes, I welded to the wrong side. It doesn't matter, it makes no difference. Both ends are identical. The only difference is the writing is upside down. So just for a bit of a laugh, we did that. So I've got a little bit, I've got to weld this on the underside when the chassis is rolled over. It doesn't foul anything, the pod still fits. I've measured it all up, but the bike rack still fits, all that kind of stuff. So that will be really easy to get to for doing the wiring. And with all the little brackets there, the wiring should be really quick and easy to install. That's what I say now. Okay, I have to be up very early in the morning to go up to Auckland. I've got an ROV to deliver and some meetings and other stuff to collect. So tomorrow's going to be a very long day indeed. So I'll try and keep this short. You'll like that, I'm sure. Hopefully you found this video interesting and helpful. Episode 9 of the Big Little Off-Road Adventure trailer build. A lot of work going into this trailer, isn't there? It's a bit too high as this, isn't it? Hang on. Let's sort, there we are. Look, that's better. I'll stand back a bit. Wonderful. So, there's going to be more episodes yet, clearly, because it's not finished, is it? There's still stuff to do. We've got full strip down, and then the proper installation of the Cruise Master suspension. There'll be a video on that, and where all you grease everything, how to set up the toe in, or like, sorry, the toe, should I say, not toe in. How to set up the toe, because it is adjustable. The actual wiring on the trailer, and there'll be a wiring diagram that I'll put together for that. Make it nice and simple to understand for me and for you. Mrs. Mechanic's next job really is for me to, well, I've got to strip the whole chassis. She's got to clean the whole thing up proper. There's a couple more welds still to do when it's upside down. She'll need to clean those up as well. She'll grumble at me. And then she's going to spray it. Or I'm going to spray it. Probably Mrs. Mechanic's going to spray it, to be fair, because I'm too busy. Yeah, my next day in the workshop is Saturday, and Ben's coming down, and the plan is to fit the lift kit to the chimney on the Saturday. So I won't even be working on the trailer on Saturday. That's how tight we're getting. Oh, and we'll leave a week after that. Yes, a week. So I've got one more weekend after Ben's been. If you want to support the building of the trailer, all the equipment that we need to facilitate doing this charity ride for Mrs. Mechanic from Cape Reinga all the way to Bluff off-road, pretty much up most of the way, on a little Honda monkey bike, then do that through the Andy Mechanic PayPal option. There's a link in the description, And there's also a link up at the front on the Andy Mechanic sort of homepage on YouTube in the banner, right hand side, little tiny icon. Thanks YouTube. Click on that, take you through. You can do a donation, even a couple of bucks. It really, really helps. If you want to help or donate, should I say, to the actual ride itself for the Alzheimer's Trust, then do that through Mrs. Mechanic's Just a Fish Give a Little page, and again there's a link in the description. Anything you can send through is much appreciated. I think she's almost about a fifth the way to her target of $1,000. She's doing really well. She's very happy, but you know, even a couple of bucks here and there, it helps. It's nice to see it just slowly creep up, and I'm sure it'll go up a lot more once she actually starts the ride. We've had a lot of support from companies here in New Zealand. I'm not going to list all of them. Their decals and stuff will be all over the trailer when we finish building it. So you'll get to find out a full list then. You'll also find me on Facebook. Oh, hang on, we've jumped a bit. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click on subscribe, ring the bell, and that way you won't miss any future videos. There's already about 600 videos on the channel, so if I don't post for a couple of weeks, just delve into the archives. There's tons of videos in there. Not all about fabrication. There's loads of motorcycle repairs, there's assistants in the workshop, tool girls, and there's all sorts of stuff going on. We do a lot of various repairs here, even diagnostics using the Pico. Pretty cool. Now, where was I? Yes, so don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up and comment on the video. If you've ever built a trailer or you're thinking about building a trailer, ask a few questions. There's lots of people out there that will help to steer you in the right direction and give you some great advice, including myself. Now, you will also find me on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals, or you can just email me directly, and my email address again is in the description of this video, andymechanic@live.co.uk, live.co.uk. That's the same email for PayPal as well if you want to do a donation. You can also become a patron to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. Just click on the link again in the homepage or in the description, and you can sort of sign up to pay $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want. I do try to keep the content on Patreon, refreshed now and again. I haven't recently, to be perfectly honest. I've been way too busy, but there will be other stuff going up in the future as well. And it does give you access as well to some pretty unique photos of the various tool girls. So you can do that if you want some good screensavers or wallpapers. They're all in there. What else? That's really about it, isn't it? We've done the Patreon thing, we've done the PayPal thing. I'm knackered. I need to pack up. I've got a trailer to load up, a vehicle to strap down, hitch the trailer onto the truck. I've got a workshop to tidy, all the tools to put away, all the bikes to bring in. Man, I've got some work to do. But first, I'm going to have a cider and a cigarette. See you next time, crew. Cheers. Over and out.
And you get the flip up again.
Oh!